Test one, two, test one, two. Good morning, family. Welcome to the Hood Grace podcast. This is our very first episode. My name is Pastor Rudy Rubio. I am one of the pastors at the Reformed Church of Los Angeles in the city of Linwood. We are a new multicultural church plant here in the Hood with a Reformed background, coming to see how we can bless the city of Linwood, Compton, Watts, and all the surrounding areas. Why Hood Grace Podcast, or what is Hood Grace Podcast? Some of you, or many of you, know that one of my good friends, the homie Selah, and I were recording a podcast for almost a year. Selah had always had Grace in Two Fingers podcast, the Grace in Two Fingers website. He invited me to come on and help him kind of like revamp it and re-get it going, and we did. It was good for almost a year. But sometimes life situations and scheduling conflicts would just not allow us to record. You know, we had a bunch of people that were following us, that were encouraging us, and it was really dope. And we had some really great conversations, some really great subjects that we were talking about. But then with new jobs, it just got harder and harder to come together to record and spend quality time preparing for what we were doing. You know, we're both pretty busy individuals. And it just became harder and harder till I said, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna have to step back, bro, because I can't record anymore. He got a new job, so I'll officially blame it on him because he got a new job, and it was harder and harder for us to get together. His schedule was only open in the evening, and with the church plant happening in the evening, it was like men's group, congregational care, Spanish Bible study, leadership development. It just got too hard to be able to continue to schedule time to record in the evening. So we just parted ways with each other's blessing, not in a bad way at all. Like, there was zero drama between Selah and I. I want to make that very, very clear. Like, that's my boy. We haven't been kicking it that much lately because of work schedules, but that's my dude. Okay, and he's going to continue to be recording Grace in Two Fingers, and he will be featured here on Hood Grace Podcast, and I'm sure I'll be back on Grace in Two Fingers. I just want to make that very, very clear. That's my boy. It's all good. There is zero drama. None but love for him and his wife Tawana and their beautiful daughter, and yeah, that's kind of what how that went down, and why I decided to start recording. Why I decided to start recording Hood Grace Podcast. Let me get one thing very clear. The name Hood Grace, I wish I could take the credit for. But as I was up in Oakland visiting some friends for a seminary class, I was introduced to a brother by the name of Pastor Bernard Emerson. Dope dude who had planted a church in the city of Oakland. And then he and another homie did something that is just virtually unheard of. You had a pastor at a predominantly black church, Baptist church, and a white pastor at a predominantly Reformed church come together and merge. And they are now called Tapestry Church. I mean, the media has been all over in Oakland. They're doing an amazing job. But one of the things I learned from Brother Bernard, amongst many, was that phrase, Hood Grace. You know, people talk about hood rich and hood this and hood that, but we don't really talk about or acknowledge the grace that exists in the hood, or what it's like to experience that. So that's kind of how the name Hood Grace came about. And I asked the homie, like, yo, I'm gonna start this podcast. With your blessing, I want to use the name Hood Grace. And he was like, dude, you got it. So just mad ups to the homie Pastor Bernard and Josh up there in Oakland with Tapestry Church. And we pray that people would just come to see what we're doing here in Linwood, in the Watts, Compton, South Central area, like everything happening here in Southern California. I don't want to just limit the kingdom work that we're doing to just the city of Linwood, but that's where God has us at, and that's where we're doing ministry. But I see y'all online right now. Thanks for kind of tuning in. Feel free to ask any questions or whatever you may have. But again, this is just an introductory to what we're going to be doing at Hood Grace. I'm going to be recording whenever I have the free time, but I pray and hope to be able to get out at least one episode every week. If we can do more, great, but at least one episode a week. I want to be sharing what's happening with me personally as a pastor, at a church plant. I want to be able to just be open and transparent with my life, with what's happening, with some of my struggles, as well as my victories. I don't want this to be a place where I'm going to come and just like, yeah, and vomit and have y'all be my therapist, you know? But I want to be able to share. I want to be able to share what's happening in the church planting world here in Linwood. I want to share what's happening with the Rubio family here, what's happening with the leadership team at RCLA in Linwood, what's on the agenda, what's coming up, how you can pray for us, and just to keep us in heart and in prayers and in thought and in your mind, you know. It can get lonely at times planting a church. I've talked about that in the past and shared some of those struggles, and it was amazing to get an overwhelming response from people like, hey man, we're praying for y'all. Hey man, we're lifting y'all up. Other church planters are like, dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, we went through the same thing. Problems in the church planting world. And it's dope to be able to see people say, hey, you know what, man, we experienced the exact same thing. We didn't know how to word it. Or thanks for having the courage to say this. And there's a ton of homies that we got that are church planters. So I don't know it all. I don't profess to know it all. I learn from as many people as I can because I want to make sure that I'm a good steward of the resources that the Lord has given me. So Hood Grace Podcast is coming to you live and direct here from RCLA in the city of Linwood. Actually, we're in my home right now, right? But centered here in the city of Linwood on the Compton border. And we just want to share with people what's happening. I hope to have a bunch of friends either call in or be here personally. God has blessed me with the spiritual gift of networking. Don't ask me where that's at in the Bible, because I'll tell you like the book of Opinions, chapter 2, verse 36. But I know that's a gift that God has given me with networking. And it's not always like it's not for my benefit. It's not for my, for me to come up, you know, but it's for the kingdom. So to be able to see people coming together in the kingdom and helping each other and being there for each other is a dope thing, you know. So I want this to be a place where we can connect, where I can have pastor friends come, people from all different parts of the kingdom come, different vocations, different offices or jobs, to be able to speak into what is Hood Grace. How have you experienced grace in the hood? You know, like I said a few minutes ago, we've all heard the terms, you know, hood rich. Well, this is going to be Hood Grace, grace in the hood. And we all experience that in different ways, shapes, forms, and sizes, right? And it doesn't mean that you have to be in the hood in order to be able to experience God's grace. Not at all. This will just be something that I'll be sharing from my perspective, which just happens to be in the hood here in LA. But there's hoods everywhere, right? There's hoods everywhere. I see the homie Pastor Bernard just came on. So big ups to you, Bernard. I just finished sharing with everybody about where the term Hood Grace came from, giving you the credit for it and saying that I'm thankful that you gave me your blessing to go ahead and use that name for this podcast. So he will definitely be on this podcast coming up. Again, Pastor Bernard Emerson and Josh in the city of Oakland did what nobody else has done or that we know of in bringing two culturally different churches together to making a new church. So we're grateful, and I want to be able to learn from great people like Pastor Bernard and other homies that we have that are out there doing just amazing kingdom work for the Lord to lift his name on high, right? So I'd be glad and grateful to hear what you guys have to say, what questions you may have, what you want to see us talk about. But we want to talk about real issues. You know, we don't want to sugarcoat stuff, but we will be talking about things in a winsome way. We won't be disrespecting nobody. We won't be offending nobody. The Word of God will do that alone. But we do want to be faithful to the calling that God has given us, both here in the church with the resources and the people that he's placed in our lives to further his kingdom, to give him the glory, right? To lift his name on high, not us, not the podcast, not our church plant, but him, because it's him and him alone that gives growth to everything, not in and of ourselves. So yeah, curious to see or hear what y'all want to see us or hear us talking about, who you would like to hear us collab with and talk about. I got a ton of homies who have podcasts all over the different parts of the country from different backgrounds. So I'm really looking forward to that. And as well as talking about some situations that are going on that have a lot to do with where we're at in our context of ministry. You know, there's a ton of stuff to talk about. Like Johnny Mac just, posted something the other day about social justice warriors and evangelicals, and that created a huge buzz. And just like I went into one of the face groups I'm in with some Latino Reform brothers and just kind of like posted it, not knowing it was going to be like a bomb just dropping a grenade and people just going to town on it like fish, like piranha on a fish or something that fell into the ocean, or sea or lake or whatever it is that they live. But we want to be able to talk about stuff like that, what it looks like practically lived out, how we read that hermeneutically, like what does that mean in the Bible, exegeted, who was the author talking to, what was the message he was trying to portray, what was happening culturally or geographically at the time that he felt he needed to use these words to get X message across, and how does that apply to where we're at today? How does that apply to the way we're doing ministry? What is that calling us to do, and how are we going to practically live that out, honoring God, and really blessing the people in the communities where God has placed us? You heard? So we want to be talking about good stuff, with the homie Selah and I on Grace and Two Fingers. We talked about racism and what that looked like. And it was Selah, who's African-American, myself, who's Mexican, and my homie, Pastor Kyle Blake, Lutheran pastor over in Long Beach, black, white, and brown, talking about what racism looks like in our communities, what racism looks like in the church, keeping it God-honoring at all times, but yet keeping it real. This is some of the experiences that we've had. We were transparent and shared and opened up. So that's some of the stuff that we want to be doing here at Hood Grace Podcast. So this is just a quick podcast episode introducing who we are, introducing why we're doing what we're doing and what we hope to do. There is no set agenda other than being transparent, honor God with what we're doing. We're in the city of Linwood, keeping it live and direct. We want to bless the city of Linwood, our new community, with the love of Christ. The same way that he extended grace to us, we want to continue to share and extend that grace to everybody else. And there's a ton of stuff happening here, a lot of good stuff happening here. One thing I can just brag about really quick, we got invited to participate in a community garden right alongside the 105 freeway. The 105 freeway, for those of you that don't know, goes directly through the city of Linwood and Watts all the way to the 405 at LAX, LA International Airport. And along that freeway, there's like really thin, long park, and they put in some community gardens there. We were able to take possession or rent, let me say that better, to rent a one of those plots. And we went in and we did a whole day of beautification where we cleaned up, weeded, we painted and decorated and just made it look dope. And it got submitted into a contest, and I think that we were within the top 5. So little things like that we want to be able to share about. We want to be able to brag on God for what he's doing. September 22nd, for some of you that know, we are really connected to the Compton Initiative that happens every quarter, which are beautification projects. The church that I came out of in Paramount, Emmanuel Reformed Church, started this beautification project, the Compton Initiative, about 11 years ago. And I've been there for about 8 now. So we learned from them, and we wanted to be able to replicate that into where we are now here in Linwood. So we partnered with the City Council, Department of Public Works, Parks and Rec, the school district, and everybody has been amazing, and just welcoming us in and partnering with us to dream about how we can do something like this in the city of Linwood as well, to impact this city. Obviously not everybody is faith-based, but we are. So we want that faith that we have in Christ to be able to spur us on towards love and good deeds, the way we read in Hebrews 10. So September 22nd will be our very first beautification, our very first work day, called the Linwood Commitment. My good friend, Mayor Solache, was thinking of the word Linwood Promise, but he said, nah, you know what? Lots of people make promises and break them. Let's call this the Linwood Commitment, because we need a commitment from the community, from the faith-based organizations, from the city itself, to come together and commit to doing good things in Linwood. So that's what we're going to be doing. That workday is September 22nd, Saturday. We'll be meeting at Lindbergh Elementary School, which is geographically speaking, it's on the border of like Linwood and Watts on that side. It's going to be a huge beautification project. We're going to paint. We're going to do some murals. We're going to pick up trash. We're going to pressure wash sidewalks. We're going to clean up some parks that are behind it, as well as doing big bulk trash dumpsters that day. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. If you're into doing good deeds, you want to do something good and give back to the community, this is a great way to get involved with us. It'll be our very first one. It'll be hosted on Saturday, September 22nd at Lindbergh Elementary School in the city of Linwood. Again, it's like on the Watt side, and we want to do something really great to lift the Lord's name on high. It's not about lifting up our church. For us, it's about lifting up the Lord's name on high, that He would get the glory for what's going on. And we're just going to be really excited about working with the people that God has placed in our lives. So we're excited for that. We hope that many of you can come out to help us, partner with us. It's a great day to just roll up your sleeves, pick up a paintbrush, and bless the community. We're going to be able to sign off on community service hours. So if any high school students need to sign off on some community service hours before graduation, that'll be a great way to go in and you can knock out multiple birds with just one stone. Again, my name is Pastor Rudy Rubio. I am one of the pastors at the Reformed Church of Los Angeles here in the city of Linwood. We are located at 3801 Cortlandt Street. For those of you that are familiar with the area but don't know all the names of the streets, that is like off of the corner of Bullis, just past the 105 freeway. We're tenants from an older Lutheran church, St. Paul's. We meet there at 12 noon. We're a very diverse group. There are Latinos, African Americans, Samoans, Guatemalans, Filipinos, all coming together in the name of the Lord to worship Him, to establish community, to love on each other every single Sunday at 12 noon. We invite you to come in to worship with us, to see how we worship God in spirit and in truth in a multicultural setting. We're multi-ethnic, multi-generational. It's just a small foretaste of heaven. So we hope you can come join us this Sunday, 12 noon, and see what we're doing, what God is doing here, and just be updated with all the things that are happening. I've also got a blog. It's called urbanchurchplanting.blog. I don't like writing, but a bunch of my homies from the seminary and other dudes in different parts of the country are watching what we're doing. They're learning from us. We're learning from them. And one of the homies said, dude, you need to document this stuff because a lot of us are learning and we want to learn from you. And I wish I could say that there would be nothing but great things to learn from us, but we've made mistakes too. We made some mistakes and we're learning from them. And we want to be able to have people learn, not just to help celebrate our victories, but to learn from our mistakes. Like, hey, you know what? That was a pretty bonehead decision. There was some pride involved. There was this involved. We didn't really pray much about that. We just went ahead and did it. And again, we made mistakes, but God is gracious and God is kind and merciful, and He gives the growth. I said in one of my sermons about a month ago that our little church has grown. We started off with about 30 people, about a year ago, and we're worshiping almost 100 people every Sunday. And it's not a numbers game, right? We're like, yeah, let's fill up the church with bodies so we can say we've got 500 people in the church. No. True discipleship usually happens in small groups. I'll be preaching about that this Sunday. But in my sermon, I had said that it wasn't my amazing personality. I was kind of clowning on my co-pastor, Chris Marquez, and said it wasn't his amazing sense of humor because he's like an introvert. He's really like serious and, but it's God who gives the growth. And God has given us growth. So we take no recognition for that. We're just trying to work our tails off to give Him glory. Trying to put a smile on His face. But God has given us a little bit of growth, and we want to be able to be good stewards of that. We want to be able to honor Him with what He's given us and the people that He's bringing into our church, that we would teach them sound doctrine, that we would teach them how to practically live that out, that all the information wouldn't stay here, but that it would come forth and through our hearts, because great theology in our heads is useless. We need to be able to live that out. So we're learning mutually from other friends in different parts of the country, like I mentioned. So I hope that this podcast will just be another platform that can be used to give God glory, to let people know about what a church plan is. Some people don't even know what a church plan is, so we've had to have those conversations and explain that. But it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when you're planning a church in the hood, having to raise funds, and everybody thinks that having a multicultural church is really sexy and really, but it's really difficult and really complicated. And it could be really, really hard at times. But only by the grace of God do we get through. So I look forward to hanging out with you guys every week. I plan on recording something and posting it every Friday. I had posted a while back that I was going to use the DJ Quick song, the instrumentals, but the homie Chris King got at me real quick like, hey bro, how about licensing agreements and stuff? And I was like, oh yeah, about that, huh? Even though I'm not using it to make money or anything like that, but my 16-year-old son, who happens to be our audio and sound engineer, is also a beat maker. Pretty dope beat maker too, if I don't say so myself. So the song, the instrumental that you heard on the intro and that you will be hearing shortly on the outro is all my son Diego, his talents, his skills. As a matter of fact, I think the homie Selah and Slack were there when and Selah too when Eric Enough was teaching him how to go about that. So those are his beats. Everything on here will be OG, except for the name that I borrowed from my homie Pastor Emerson. Yeah, man, we want to honor God. Somebody's asking about the decals. I had some decals made up so I could sell just to kind of like cover the cost of what this podcast is for. I'm gonna try and get some sponsors. So if you could see these cool little decals that are right here on the screen, it says Hood Grace Podcast, right? Like with a speaker, like the speaker that I'm using. The little church in the background, and as you see in every hood, a pair of Chucks hanging from the telephone poles, right? A pair of Chucks hanging from the telephone poles. And yes, they are red, okay? So whoop. Might have to have another decal made just with some blue Chucks so nobody gets offended or thinks we're still playing that game here. But yeah, man, any suggestions, we'd be pleased to hear them. These decals, we'll be selling them for like $2 and postage just to help raise money to pay for the expenses. I'm not trying to get rich, just cover our overhead. So if you're interested in one of these decals, if you're watching the Facebook Live, hit me up and get us the $2 in the postage, and we'll get it out to you in an envelope. And we'll be having other stuff coming by too. But for now, I want to say thank you for those of you that have tuned in. Thank you for taking just a few minutes out of your day to listen to what we're doing, what we're trying to do. We ask you to please pray for us. Again, we want to make sure that this platform is used to give God the glory. Yes, Edwin, definitely need a sponsor. I'll be talking to you shortly about that. Where was I? Yep, to give God the glory. So I'd be interested to hear from you. What subjects you guys want to talk about? What themes or ideas could be controversial that you think pastors need to talk about? And let me make that clear. I am not afraid to talk about stuff that most pastors don't want to talk about, right? If I'm doing it to honor God, if I'm doing it to honor people that need to talk about it. Like, I'm not going to fight with you. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to do any of that stuff, right? I'm not going to belittle you or condescend. But I do want to talk about real stuff happening here in the hood, in all the different hoods, right? From a Christian perspective. You know, me and the homie Selah, when we were doing Grace in Two Fingers, it was like the black and brown perspective. The black and brown. He's black, I was brown. Well, kind of brown. I'm kind of light-skinned brown brother, you know. But talking about stuff from our perspective, you know. And it was just like a black guy and a brown guy talk about what Jesus has done and is doing. That's what Grace and Two Fingers was about. And I think that's a great theme, a great heart set to talk about stuff. Because this isn't about blowing me up or my church up. Like I said, it's all about giving God honor and talking about real things with real people that are really relevant to where we're at. And I want to be able to give the perspective from what a pastor, what it looks like in his seat, right? From the pulpit. You know, because when you're standing up preaching from the pulpit, you see everything. You see the people that are paying attention. You see the people that are taking notes. You see the people that are on their phones, the people that are falling asleep, the people that are talking and telling jokes to the person next to them, you know. I want to be able to share with you all here, and other friends share with you here, what we see from our perspective, right? And be able to engage, like, what do you see going on? What do you think the church needs to be talking about? This will not be a social justice warrior podcast where we're going to sit here and just talk about stuff just for the sake of talking about it and arguing about it, right? I will not do that. I will not waste time about that. But if something is really relevant, right? Like there's a serious immigration thing going on, and where you're at, like where we're at here in Linwood, it's like over 95%, over 90% Latino, excuse me, over 90% Latino. That's something that's really relevant that we need to talk here. Whether I agree with what the administration's doing or not, that's besides the point. But we do need to talk about those situations, and what does the Bible say about that? And how do we as a church come alongside a group of people that are suffering because of this specific situation and love on them, right? So that's kind of what we want to be doing here. So again, I want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for praying for us as we move forward. I pray that this will be out sometime this afternoon. Today is Friday, August 17th. I almost said March. Friday, August 17th. It's about 12:30 right now. I hope to get this out in the next couple of hours. Lord bless you, keep you, make his face to shine upon you, and grant you peace. Peace.